Well, Merry Christmas, everyone. My name's Jason. So glad that you're here. That was really good singing. I don't know if Brockville needs another choir, but man, y'all should try out. Okay, kids, I got a question. You can help us adults answer this because sometimes us adults, we don't want to participate, so you can help us out, okay? By a show of hands, how many of you have ever gave a list of things to another person you hope that they would buy for you? Yes? Did anybody do that? I think that every single Christmas, many of us make lists. Am I right about that? And we hope to receive some of those things that are on our list. And in some cases, we want to receive everything on our list, yeah? Well, here's what happened to me when I was a young kid growing up. I did a gift exchange with our extended family, and I wrote out my list. And guess what? I got everything on my list. And as I was opening all of these presents and looking at them one by one, I was not surprised at all. Because I put that on my list, and I got everything on my list. And it was interesting because my mom and my dad were watching me open these gifts, and they noticed that I wasn't filled with excitement or joy or passion. I didn't even yell. And they said to me, "Did you know what you were getting this year?" And I said, "Yeah, I put it on my list." Sometimes the best gifts that we get in our lives are the ones that are unexpected. We didn't plan for them, and somebody chooses to give us a gift, and now we get to decide, what do we do with it? And that's kind of like the Christmas story. And so what I'm going to do in the next few minutes is I'm going to read a portion of the Christmas story, the part where these three kings from a foreign land find their way to baby Jesus, and they bring him gifts. Here's what it says in the book of Matthew, chapter 2, the first 12 verses. Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the reign of King Herod, and about that time, some wise men from eastern lands arrived in Jerusalem asking, "Where's the newborn King of the Jews? We saw his star as it rose, and we have come to worship him." King Herod was deeply disturbed when he heard this, as was everyone in Jerusalem. He called a meeting of the leading priests and teachers of religious law and asked, "Where's the Messiah supposed to be born?" "In Bethlehem in Judea," they said, "for this is what the prophet wrote. And you, O Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are not least among the ruling cities of Judah, for a ruler will come from you, who will be the shepherd for my people Israel." Then Herod called a private meeting with the wise men, and he learned from them the time when the star first appeared. Then he told them, "Go to Bethlehem and search carefully for the child, and when you find him, come back and tell me so that I can go and worship him too." After this interview, the wise men went their way, and the star they had seen in the east guided them to Bethlehem. It went ahead of them and stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were filled with joy. They entered the house and saw the child with his mother, Mary, and they bowed down and worshiped him. Then they opened their treasure chests and gave him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. When it was time to leave, they returned to their own country by another route, for God had warned them in a dream not to return to Herod. Now, maybe you have heard this part of the Christmas story before, and maybe that's a part of the Christmas story that's brand new to you. Here's what happens. You got these people that have traveled from a far distant land, following a star, finding a king, and they don't show up empty-handed. They bring gifts: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. The gold that they gave was a symbol of royalty. From one king to another king, you bring a tribute of some kind. And that's what these three individuals did. This little infant baby king that hadn't even done anything yet, maybe filled his diaper, they brought him gold. It's estimated that the amount of gold that they brought him at that time would be equivalent to about $4 million Canadian today. If y'all want to show up at my house with some gold worth $4 million, I will not say no. Now, this gold not only provides for the family that day, but it provides for that family well beyond that day. You see, from this moment, here's what we discover, that Herod is the king of the Jews, not by birth, but by power. And he's dominating them, and he's subjecting them to his rule. And he hears about this king through these guys that is born to set the people free, and of course he wants to take them out. He's like, I'm going to take out King Jesus. I'm going to take out this king to make sure that he doesn't dethrone me. And so these wise men, after they have this meeting with Herod, they find the child. God reveals to them, hey, don't go back to Herod and tell him that you found the kid, because he's going to just cause harm to this individual. And they go back home by another route, not connecting with Herod. If you keep reading in the story that I just read, a few verses later, you find out that Herod sends out a law saying, I want all the male children aged 2 and younger to be killed, because I do not want my power threatened at all. King Jesus, little baby infant Jesus, his mom and his dad, they're on the run for their lives. And wouldn't you know it, this gold helps them survive for over 3 years in a foreign land. Now, nobody told them, hey, you're going to have a child, you're going to have to go live in a foreign territory, and it's going to cost you $4 million Canadian to raise this kid. This unexpected gift was exactly what they needed, and they didn't even ask for it. The second gift that they are recipients of is the gift of frankincense. And frankincense was this resin-type product that was often used in worship to burn incense. It was used for anointing, to set something apart. It was also used as a healing balm of some kind. If you would fall down and scrape your knee, you could put some frankincense on it, and it would seal the wound. It would start healing the wound. It would start helping the wound to recover to its original form. And here is this group of men, unbeknownst to the family beforehand, unknown to them, and they're giving this gift of frankincense to this family. Now, we got 3 sons in our household, and I got to tell you this. They know how to play hard. Broken bones, scraped knees, chipped teeth, bruises of all kinds and all shapes in all sorts of places. They are constantly injuring themselves in some way, shape, or form. I bet you I have spent more time cumulatively in emergency rooms than almost 30% of our environment here. Stitches. Did you know the head bleeds a lot? Yep. But it leaves a cool mark to tell a cool story later on. I imagine that this gift of frankincense, as symbolic as it was, to be given this gift, this reverence, this expression of worship to a priest-to-be, it was also really practical and helpful for when Jesus would injure himself and get a cut and scrape his knee. They could rely on that frankincense to help stimulate the healing process. And rest assured, here's what we know about Jesus. He did bleed, even though he was God. There's a third gift that is given to this family, and it's the gift of myrrh. And this is the most interesting of the 3 gifts from my perspective, because myrrh was, again, another resin, another product, but it was used primarily for embalming people. It was used to prepare bodies after they had died. Now, maybe Mary and Joseph knew what all of these gifts were for. They had an idea. But getting myrrh when you're holding your infant son, I don't know if that computed as to the purpose of the gift. See, it was this symbolic gesture by these three foreign individuals submitting to this family. It was a way of them preparing the family for what was to come. See, they knew something that maybe Mary and Joseph and little infant Jesus didn't yet know, that life is hard and it's filled with suffering and pain and at times despair. And it's in those moments where we don't know what to do. It's in those moments where maybe we've made a whole bunch of mistakes with the choices that we've made, and now everything seems messed up, that we're in need of saving in that space, of somebody to come in and just clean up all the chaos that we've created. My son Paxton reminds me of this all the time. He shares a room with one of his brothers, Declan, and they are masters at creating chaos of clutter in their space. To the point where they know where all the clutter is, and if you start moving the clutter, they don't know where anything is anymore. And so once a month, we do a big clean of their room, and Paxton always reminds me, Dad, I can't do it on my own. And I fire back to him and I say, buddy, you made this mess on your own. You could definitely clean it up. He's like, nope, I need you to help me. And that little guy gets me every time. And sure enough, I find myself in that crazy, chaotic space of his, working alongside of him and his mom and his older brother, and we are doing the cleaning. And he's just grinning ear to ear. Now, this is an unexpected gift that they received, this myrrh. It sets the tone for what they're going to experience moving forward. And I can't help but think that even if we have went through a Christmas before, there are unexpected gifts that each one of us receive, especially those that we didn't ask for. Here are some of the gifts that I think that Jesus offers us in the Christmas story. Jesus offers us the gift of himself as king. Like, I know in our world today, we love calling all of our own shots, making all of our own decisions. We like that idea, but have you ever had decision fatigue? Like, do you ever just get tired of having to make all of the decisions? Like, imagine for a moment you're driving down King Street, and it's up to you whether or not the lights are going to change color. You're sitting there like, I want the light to go green, but so is the other person going the opposite direction of you. He has or she has that same ability. Well, I want the light to go green, and I want the light to go green, and if you're both going green, it's just going to create chaos. There are times in our lives where I think that making decisions is awesome, but then other times, I wish just somebody would decide for me. Like, I don't really care what color my bedroom's going to be. Somebody else make that decision. Like, I really don't care whether or not I'm going to have snow traps on my road or if I'm not going to have them. Like, I really don't care whether or not the sky is blue or the sky is green. It all looks pretty to me. Sometimes I wonder if we just enter into a phase of decision fatigue. Like, what are you going to have for dinner? Ooh, I don't like that. Let's have something else. The gift that Jesus offers us as king is he's like, listen, I can make all these large, challenging decisions on your behalf. Like, who runs the world? You don't have to worry about that. I've got it. Like, what do I do with all the evil and chaos around me? You don't have to fear. I've got it. What do I do when I need to talk to my neighbor about something? Don't worry. I will be with you and I will help you in that conversation. All of those big decisions that sometimes fill us with anxiety and frustration and nerves, Jesus is like, listen, I got this. I'm with you through it all. He also gives us the gift of himself as healer, of the one who's willing to bandage up the wounds, who's willing to help us clean up messes, who's willing to be with us through all the pains, the ups, the downs, the ebbs, the flows of life. And he gives us the gift of Redeemer. And that means that somebody is willing to make something beautiful out of the chaos of our own lives. Those are the gifts that he brings to us on the Christmas season. And the challenge is when something's not on your list and you still receive it as a gift, you do have to make a decision. What do I do with the gift? Like, do I really need another tie? Do I really want to eat another fruitcake? If I have half a box of turtle chocolates, that's better than a whole box, right? No, full box all day. Jesus gives us these gifts as King, as healer, as Redeemer. Jesus as an infant child, fully God, fully human. And even in all of that, sometimes we don't understand it. And that's okay. Maybe we don't always have to understand why somebody chooses to give us a gift. Maybe we just have to choose what we're going to do with the gift of generosity that they've given to us. And so right now in this space, I'm just going to give us a moment to just contemplate that individually. Maybe it stirs up questions in your mind, questions about faith or ways that maybe you want somebody to pray for you. And so what we're going to do in the next just kind of 15, 20 seconds is just sit in silence to the best of our ability and ask ourselves that question, what do I do with Jesus? Like, what do I personally do with Jesus? Let's do that right now. I know the holidays can be filled with lots of flurry of activity and hustle and bustle, and oftentimes it's difficult for us to find moments to slow down and to ponder the great big questions of life, like, what do I do with Jesus? If there's any way that we can walk alongside you as a church family, we would love to do that. And so maybe over the holidays, you're going to bump into something unexpected, and you're going to be like, I don't know, but I think I just need somebody to pray. You're going to have an opportunity to do that. You could reach out to us, and we will commit to praying for you. And here's how you can do that. You can send me a text message. Yes, I receive text messages at jason@croad.ca. You can send me a question like, hey, why is God all-powerful and he lets bad things happen in the world? And if you send me those questions and your contact information, either myself or one of our C Road family will get back to you within 10 days, and there's no obligation to like, oh my goodness, they're going to convince me that I'm wrong in the way that I've chosen to live my life or anything like that. No, we just want to get to know you, and we want to start a conversation and meet you either in the middle of your question or in the middle of your prayer request. That's it. Because we all know that life isn't always straightforward. In fact, when I think about it, that Christmas night when Jesus showed up, we sing this song called Silent Night. That night was not silent. That night was not silent. I've been in the delivering room with an individual delivering babies 3 times, okay? It ain't silent in there. There's some yelling, there's some screaming, maybe some accusations of like, you did this to me. There's some tensions that happen in those spaces. Well, in the case of Jesus' arrival on the planet, it wasn't out of the ordinary in that he faced all those same things. Those moments were a part of that night. Not only that, labor and delivery in a space that wasn't their own, not a comfortable hospital or a home birth of some kind, but in a stable. There's animals around. And then lo and behold, a few hours later, some strangers show up. and they smell like sheep. It was anything but a silent night. And what I love about that is even in the midst of all that chaos, Jesus makes a difference.